Do I believe that he's a draft dodger? I will stick with the Supreme Court and what they came up with. Yo, this is Tribe with Yo Tribe Sports Bag. I'm back at it with you today from the kitchen, cooking it up, especially just for you. Before we get to any of this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you get the thumbs up. Make sure you help a brother get to 1,000 subscribers. I want a community of sports fans, not just boxing fans, not just baseball fans, not just football fans. I want a community, a large community. Let's start with 1,000. I don't see any problem with trying to get to that. Let's battle Mr. Algorithm and make it happen for us. You saw the thumbnail. You saw what this is about. This is about Muhammad Ali, the draft dodger. Let me explain. Why was Muhammad Ali called the draft dodger? You see, he grew up in the Jim Crow South in Louisville, Kentucky. Even though he was middle class, he didn't have the rights of other middle class people throughout the entire nation. So he had one reason, at least, to stand for what he believed was right. Let's move on a little bit. Was he correct in his conscientious objector stance? See, when he became a member of the Nation of Islam in 1964, the minister of the Nation of Islam was the reason why he was not going to go over to Vietnam. And in his words, kill the poor people of another country, the brown people of another country. Now, do you have a problem with what he said? We'll dive into this and try to get something done in about 10 minutes or less, as we've been known to do. You see, Muhammad Ali always said that he was the greatest of all times. And you know what? There are a lot of people out there who will agree and think that he is the greatest of all time. You may not get an argument from a lot of people. He was great in the ring and he was great outside of the ring. However, he never said he was the smartest. Let's take a look at it. He graduated in 1960, the same year in which he went to Rome and won a gold medal as a light heavyweight boxer in the Olympics. He graduated 376 out of 391 students in his graduating class. That's definitely the bottom quarter. So obviously things weren't as smart, at least in the books, as you would have expected. Therefore, he failed the military exam in 1964 because of it. And by the way, we also found out later on he was dyslexic, so it wasn't some type of mental capacity or incapacity that couldn't be diagnosed. It was eventually diagnosed. Do you think you could see someone who's considered not intellectually capable able to come up with this grand scheme just to stay out of the Vietnam War when everyone else had done it? You know, Joe Louis had done it. Ray Robinson at one point had done it. Jackie Robinson had done it. So you have a lot of people who have gone on and fought in these world wars, or fought in wars, period, on the US's behalf. However, he was conscientious enough to think about what this move had meant. He felt that if he was oppressed in this country as a multimillionaire, he should have been afforded the same rights and same privileges as everyone who had the same status or even less. He believed that everybody should have enjoyed the same status in this country, and that was not the case. Incidentally, they reclassified him after he became a member of the Nation of Islam the day after beating Sonny Liston, or at least that's when he announced it, in February 25th of 1964. So that's February 26th of 1964. He let the world know that he was now a member of the Nation of Islam. And that's when all hell had broken loose. You see, he failed the test in that same year, but they weren't on top of him yet. The Nation of Islam was looked at as a violent, anti-white organization, a black supremacist, for lack of a better term. Ironically, they were looked at worse than the actual white supremacists who were the KKK back then, who had a history of killing black folks. I don't think there was a history of killing a lot of white folks according to the Nation of Islam, or going by the news or anything else you probably could have checked. Anyway, once he was looked at as a threat based on being a member of the Nation of Islam and the heavyweight champion of the world, things kind of went into warp speed. And what I mean by that, they reclassified him in 1966. So we could not get you earlier. Now, because we see you as a threat, we're going to get you now. So in addition to just getting him, they say, you know what, we'll rather get a lot of people just to get our guy. So they reclassified him, and even more black folks were drafted into the military. And we saw now in hindsight what Vietnam turned out to be. Black folks back then were 11% of the US population in 1967. However, there was 16.3% of the military at the time, which was insane. They increased it to where there was a lot more blacks drafted percentage-wise than any other race in the country. I looked at it as some type of extermination, something they tried to do, not so surreptitiously. They were doing it blatantly just to get that one man. See, I can see where he comes from to a degree, or if not completely. He saw what happened to the black people who went and fought in World War II in segregated military forces. Those same people fighting tyranny in Europe, those people fighting for democracy and freedom in Europe, and hopefully not allowing it to come on the shores of the United States, those were the same black people after leaving World War II who ended up on the television, getting hosed down by the police, getting chased and attacked by German shepherds, getting lynched on occasion. These are the same people who fought for this country's freedom. And now you want one of the most prominent black people on the planet to go over to another country 5,000 miles away and fight for their freedom just to have the honor to come back to the US and sit in the back of the bus or sit in the back of a restaurant or get your food from behind the table at a restaurant in the back. I can now see what he was talking about, and it's discouraging. Do I believe that he's a draft dodger? I will stick with the Supreme Court and what they came up with when it was time to take it to court. Because remember, when he was first stripped of his title, he had a $10,000 fine and he faced 5 years in prison. And he ended up doing neither. And as it turned out, in 1971, June 1971, the same year in which he fought Joe Frazier earlier that year, on March 8th, 1971, he was exonerated. The same mostly conservative court that initially voted 5-3 to uphold decided that he was in the right. And in fact, not only did they decide, it was completely unanimous. There was an 8-0 vote in Muhammad Ali's favor. This did not even include the first black man or black person, period, on a Supreme Court, who is Thurgood Marshall. He recused himself because he had been a U.S. Solicitor General when the case begun. So there was an 8-0 count instead of a 9-0 count, and so Ali was exonerated. So no, of course, the answer is he's not a draft dodger. I mean, if you look back at when it happened, you could see the people who thought he was draft dodging. These are the same people, as poor as they might have been, were Caucasians who lived a much better life in terms of overall rights than he had lived. They had much more than he had from this country other than just making money. They did not have to deal with the pressure of being a black person in the South, which he was. This is a worldly man who had gone to London. He's been in the United States and then eventually all over the world after this was all done. And they looked at him as a threat. And until this day, even though the KKK isn't as big as it used to be, we still know enough about them to know who they were. And so there it stands. Muhammad Ali, not a draft dodger. I understand there are people out there who aren't going to have their minds changed because they consider themselves patriots or ultra super Americans. If you were an ultra super American and you still believe in this thing, you can't have it both ways. You can't believe that somebody should be literally oppressed. Not like today when people claim to be oppressed, but literally oppressed in the Jim Crow South back in the 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, and so on. So let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you give me the thumbs up. Make sure we can battle this algorithm by giving me a subscription as well. Subscribe to the channel. This is Tribe with Yo Tribe Sports Bag. If you're interested in any more of this boxing, check out these right here. These are 4 different boxing videos for you to enjoy if you're a boxing fan. This is a sports channel, so we also have football and basketball so far, and we will be talking about other sports in the future. So this is Tribe, signing off.